Um, Thanks for having me. I guess the first thing I wanted to ask is what time it is. Like 2:15 or something? 2:20. So I would be remiss, as some of you have reminded me, not to mention that the new year, for many of you, is going to be in about 47 minutes at 3:07, 3:08. I would normally be Skyping with my family at the moment, but I'm very happy to be here. So if you celebrate the new year, as many of you probably do, Nowruz Mubarak, and if you've given up on your New Year's resolutions on January 1st, this is a new chance to give up on them again. I was invited to talk about neologism, which is a bit of a meta term since we're offering the other terms as neologisms. So in order to, it's also a very formal topic, and in order to break with that formalism, or maybe to highlight it, I decided to give the talk almost in the form of a book, which is the most formal form that I know of. So there's going to be, the talk is divided into chapters with lexical tags behind me. So that way you can follow along and hopefully take it seriously or half seriously as you wish. Chapter 1, Neologistics. Universal struggle to make sense of our lives and make language move others through highly peculiar human resources, grammar, syntax, lexicon. A neologism, from Greek neo and logos, meaning speech or utterance, is a blend of existing fragments to forge new. I picture it as grafting inorganic matter to the organic. If it sticks, the organic becomes totally fused and almost imperceptible. Should you say terrier anterior cruciate ligament, or ACL, as I have twice, a juvenile pig or human cadaver may be used to reconstruct your knee. You will walk as before, less streamlined, and you acquire a prosthesis, an artificial limb, a bionic patella. And so goes the surgical scale of neologism. According to modern psychiatry, the use of words that have meaning only to the person using them is common in children. In adults, it can signal psychopathy, even schizophrenia. It can be acquired through aphasia after a head injury. So the tendency to create a whole new vocabulary is related to what is thought of as a deficiency or an impairment. The neologistic toddler, not impaired, names anew and with childish abandon. She becomes through naming without common meaning. And I imagine a fat, smiling statue of Buddha, simultaneously babyish and wise. Also see the regression of baby talk to baby talk in Finnegan's Wake. John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word. In the Quran, too, the command to submit was the first revelation to be sent to the Prophet in Surah Al-Alaq, or the clot. Literally, the clot. Iqra, read. Al-Alaq is also a literal clot, the early stages of an embryo, that originary zygote that becomes the neologistic child. Human invention itself appears to have no language. Eureka, abracadabra are nonsense words. But invention has frequently been followed by an intonation of God. The pentagiga tweet, or 5 billionth tweet ever tweeted, sent by an outofwork.com executive, read, quote, "O Lord." That tweet brings to mind the first message ever sent electronically in 1844 between Baltimore and the US Capitol by Samuel Morse, quote, "What hath God wrought?" Chapter 2, Histoire du Neologisme. Pascal, quote, "Let no one say I have said something new. The arrangement of the subject is new. When we play tennis, both partners use the same ball, but one of them has better aim." Lucretius, "Nothing can come out of nothing." And it wasn't original when he said that 2,000 years ago either. Balzac, "The French language has accepted the new words of my predecessors. It will accept mine. Upstarts become aristocrats in time." Every expression was once a teenager that began as a neologism and eventually aged and was purloined into speech as cliché or stereotype. Chapter 3, how to do words with words. We're invited, commanded, and cajoled by politics to adopt substitutions and euphemisms for words populating our vocabularies. Politics produces neologisms for neologisms. It names and renames war stratagems, kill list for state assassination, disposition matrix for kill list. It names and renames structures housing human beings, compound, complex, facility, zone. It names and renames segregation, apartheid, Bantustan, slum, favela, banlieue. See also the language of international miserableism. I would go so far as to say that the will to reinvention is one of the main intellectual functions and legacies of modern politics. Chapter 4, Fugitive Technology. It's in the universe of informational technology and computing that one comes to realize what malleable technology language itself is. New words endure far beyond virtual technologies that collapse. Netscape and AOL may have evaporated, and Twitter eventually will as well, but the linguistic and even non-linguistic forms will stay burning alive, like a phoenix. I'm thinking of deliberate typos like teh for the, and the entrance of visual language, like emoticons that are here and multiplying. On the bus here, there were 3 women, perhaps they're here now, that were complaining about how every time they upgrade their Mac products, they have to get new substitutions to be able to reconnect them, even though the old ones were just perfectly fine as before. So perhaps we can include that as well. The relationship between the idea and the language for that idea progresses like a dance. Sometimes the language takes the lead, and we're left with a novel word like blog or hyperlink. Sometimes the idea waltzes ahead with a reusable term like cloud or thumbnail. One of the most opaque entities within the fugitive technology of language is the acronym, and I think that could be a subject for a whole nother talk. It's a highly American linguistic pattern, sometimes met with the heavy colloquialism of the internet. I can't say some of these in polite public, but you can guess what they are: IDGAF, FFS, ILU, TTYS. Some acronyms are just incredibly unfortunate. In the United States, PTA is both Parent-Teacher Association and the Prevention of Terrorism Act. MOS is both Manual of Style and, in the US military, Military Occupational Specialty. Unlike the self-conscious poet, the technologist, like his capitalist brothers, the ad men and the newsman, never has to flash his poetic license. In fact, the newsman of the 19th century went far beyond the shy poet with such license to invent new lexicons. Even today, the New York Times retains the right to reject vocabulary in the common stream, as in the refusal to publish the word tweet in articles. And we could invent our own term for this phenomenon: terminology deniers or skeptics. Chapter 5. Pardon my French, AKA, if you'll excuse the expression. An anti-colonial and/or xenophobic neologistics, xenoglottophobia. Ego-futurists in Russia who wrote poems entirely in neologisms, especially to block foreign borrowings. The Arabization of foreign words to avoid corrupting influences. Francophile walls constructed against merciless invaders. Persian neologisms to avoid domination by Arabic. My favorite, in Portuguese, inadvertent morphological neologisms like kingi kongi for King Kong, piquenique for picnic, rock and holy for rock and roll. None of this ever happens in English. So when I talk about neologism, I have to confess that I'm squarely talking about the English language. No academy owns it or controls it, not even the Oxford English Dictionary. It's an entirely open source language to the chagrin or delight of many, depending on your perspective. There's a saying in Arabic, and I was asking people whether this is an actual saying or just my father's saying, my father's proverb, that Arabic is an ocean, that it captures incredible depths, not to mention a root system that is clear and precise in its exacting beauty. English, on the other hand, merely skims the surface of language. It's the kind of language that easily affords a mixed lexicon, absorbing and rearranging instead of re-anchoring and rerouting. Think of a portmanteau of burqa and bikini like burkini. If there were an artificial language built for hybridity and neologism, it would look a lot like English, I wager. Chapter 6, Peacocking. A stunt word is a neologism created to produce a special effect and to attract attention. Often such words are disposable, cyclically cropping up and dying off. Sometimes they stick, such as Stephen Colbert's word truthiness, which is very timely in that it cropped up during the Iraq War. In the abstraction and formalization of language, largely in academia, the attention such gestures usually incur is negative. Academic jargon has the ability to adapt to new forms of syntax and grammar, but has not always done so for the better, since so many academics employ a speakerless and subjectless position and employ voicelessness in their speech. This will to reinvention here, which I previously attributed to modern politics, may not run the danger of killing anyone, but it has profound consequences on knowledge production. For whom or what is the term like creative writing invented, for example? What about the term soft power? Is there such a thing? Chapter 7. Language is an anarchist. The dark side of neologism, the headache of innovation, is rarely mentioned or measured. Neologism is the linguistic equivalent of capitalism because it too capitalizes on resources and fructifies them. Yet unlike capitalism, language cancels all debts. There's no interest rate on loan words, no police to protect property, except for perhaps for the zealous copyright holders and executive brand managers, and reflexively speaking, such as those regulating the Veritas logo of my university. In the right hands, neologism can act as outright disruption of the liberal economic order. The Spanish people appropriated the term austerity from the International Monetary Fund and used it to illuminate their condition. Despite capitalism's insistence, though, we don't have endless resources. The philological economy, subject to primordial rules beyond the grasp of a single monarchy or republic, is fortunately limitless. And finally, a postscriptum. So real, it's hyperreal. Contemporary art has to contend with the phenomenon of the hyperreal, meaning reality is constantly trumping us with its realness. Reality is simulated and inundating as never before, so new terms for what was once thought to be adequately understood are employed as a survival mechanism. In Role Reversal, American poet Elaine Equi compares art in the age of Stendhal and Flaubert with art in the age of the hyperreal, and I'm quoting, "Once reality was dumb and brutish, in need of art for elevation, but it's changed, grown baroque and multifaceted. Today we no longer take it for granted. Now art is the simpleton." The hyperreal is a suspicion that ordinary life is no longer fixed, stable, non-fictional, or real simply because it is so real. This is exactly where the division between art and politics lies, and arguably there is a division. Both are concerned with artifice and construction. Only one uses its covert nature to bully, to force, to compel, and to intimidate. As long as there are humans to do sense-making, we will always try to make new sense under the illusion, and perhaps this is a necessary illusion, that this word, this new word, will help. Despite the thinness, inadequacy, and dissatisfying essence of modern language, etymological and genealogical obsessions, including my own, carry on. Maybe this time, we tell ourselves, we'll be able, in defining life, to somehow contain it. Thank you.